and welcome to this Strategy of the Soul podcast with me, your host, Sally Oddy. I'm so excited today because we're talking about something I feel like I have been searching for my whole life, and that is a consistent morning routine. And so today we are joined by the most consistent person I have ever met in my entire life, Raina O'Dell. Raina is a certified life coach, a consistency guide, who literally inspires over 160,000 people to be more consistent and to prioritize their health and well-being every single day on Instagram. If you're in any doubt of the consistency that Raina has, go check out her Instagram. She literally says, proof is in the stories. And let me tell you, I've been following this lady for a long time and the proof is in the stories. Raina, welcome to the Strategy of the Soul podcast.
Thank you so much. What an introduction. Am I really the most consistent person you know? Do I officially get that title? I love this.
The most.
Most. I love it. But it's
funny because it also, I think one of the things that stands out with you is how consistent you are. And I think that also shows that is something that we all struggle with the most.
For sure. You know, I hear every single person I have an interaction with says exactly what you started this podcast with, of this is like, I'm not consistent at all. Like, I seriously struggle with showing up for myself in every way, shape, or form. And I also I look at my stories and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm sharing the same thing every single day, but I guess that's the point of it, right? To show up and share that consistency. So I'm glad it adds value.
And that's the weird thing. So what happened with me was I discovered your Instagram, I don't know, about 4 or 5 months ago now. And I found myself watching your morning routine every day. And I was like, oh my God, she's literally made me have a routine without me even having a routine, because I'm just watching her routine every day. And even though it's like the same thing, what I was finding was, especially those scenes when you're sitting reading with your dog, like, oh my God, it's almost like meditative. It's so calming watching you have your morning routine.
Well, thank you. That makes me so happy. You know, I feel like I've always had a pretty good routine, but I feel like animals make it an entire next level. You know what I mean? So if you don't have an animal, or you need to go adopt a dog or find a cat or get a bird or something, because I feel like they allow it to just it's just next level zen and disconnect and like being completely present in the moment. So they definitely help my routine for sure.
And especially with your dogs, because they get you up in the morning, they get you outside. Like, you've literally got no choice. I've got 2 cats and I must say they're a little bit different because I think cats are just like lazy.
Yeah.
So I think having the dogs definitely helps. So what I would like you to share with us today, if that's okay, is like, what's brought you to this specific work? What has happened in your life that has brought you here?
Oh, you are opening an entire book with 15 different 100-page chapters, just so you know.
And by the way, I would actually buy your book. So that's actually a really good idea.
Thank you. Well, I have to tell you, it's actually on my vision board to eventually write one, because I mean, it is true when I say, like, I feel like I've lived 100 different lives, and I say that constantly, and I feel like it gets annoying. I get annoyed at myself having to say it, and I don't know how else to word it other than, like, I feel like I haven't been in this constant state of like shifting from one person into the next as different traumas and life experiences and things like that have kind of happened along the way. So what brought me to where I am today? I'll start way back when. I grew up in a super small town, graduated at 18 from high school, met a boy, got pregnant by said boy in about 6 weeks, married said boy, found out I was pregnant again with said boy. So I have 2 daughters. They are 19 months apart. They're now 14 and 16. So I have 2 teenage girls. And that's another topic in and of itself, as far as like distractions and overwhelm and stress and all of those kinds of things. But I was married for a long time. I was married for about 10 years. He struggled with addictions, drugs and alcohol and sex and all kinds of things. Throughout the course of our marriage, I had kind of been in and out of this wave of eating disorders and depression and anxiety and just stress that I did. Like, I literally yesterday had a therapy appointment, and I'm doing this thing called like EMDR, where I'm kind of bringing up all of those things. And I was like, holy cow, like look at all this stuff I've actually been through. Like I got to kind of see it in front of me yesterday. And it's just seriously made such a big impact in who I am and shifted who I am. But I eventually started to kind of heal the eating disorders. I eventually filed for divorce. That was in 2016, I filed for divorce. Found out he was still using, and it was a pretty stressful time in my life. The girls were, almost to the teenage phase. The stress of that kind of tore up my insides. I don't know if you're aware of like how much, if we hold in all of this stress and all of this anxiety and all of these things and we don't get it out and we don't have these outlets, like they manifest into disease and things like that in our body. And I really truly believe that that's what happened. I developed severe ulcerative colitis, and within a year had my entire large intestine removed, and I have a permanent ileostomy now. So in the course of like a year and a half, I had like, my marriage was torn apart. He actually ended up like emptying my bank accounts, which was a whole other thing. My health was turned upside down. My body completely shifted. I had 2 girls that I was now raising by myself. So I was just like, I don't know how else to explain other than just being in like desperate need of figuring out who I am, what I need, what do I need to do to feel good? How do I even know what I want? Like, how do I even silence all of the noise and all of the chaos and all of the stress in such a way where I can even hear what I need from myself and listen to that inner voice? Because everything had just been kind of, like I said, just shoved down and dealt with in that way. In 2013, so while I was still married, I kind of got into the online health and fitness world. So I was doing like online nutrition and fitness coaching. And it wasn't until 2020, end of 2020, early 2021, that I started with my life coach certifications. And that transition happened because I was frustrated with people's inconsistency, right? I would give meal plans and give fitness plans and put them in groups and hold them accountable. And there was still some reason why they were not doing the things that they needed to do every single day. And so I found myself kind of frustrated in that, honestly, in a sense of like, I'm giving you everything. Why are you still not doing it? And so I wanted to kind of shift my business in a way where I could focus more on that, on helping people see that their lifestyle shifts and the habits that make you feel good can be fun, and you can be consistent at them. And this is what it looks like. And this is the feelings that you get overall from staying consistent in those things. Does all of this make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
I had to make just this big business shift, because I was like, it doesn't matter how many meal plans I give, if you're not going to eat the food and stay consistent in that, then like, what's the point, right? So that's kind of where I am today. I started, again, it's been almost 2 years of doing my life coaching, and I'm absolutely obsessed with it. And I love the space that I'm in now. It feels really good now.
And
it's kind of an odd shift.
That really, really comes across in how much you love your work. You have real balance in your work. You give so much to your clients, but you've got really, really strong boundaries. I loved, I actually saw I am a bit of an Instagram stalker. I saw on your Instagram the other day, you were like, don't come around here for food plans and this and that.
Yes.
You downloaded hundreds of the things, print them out and just do them. That's not what I'm here for. So how has all of this, because I really, when I think of you, I really think consistency, routines, well-being, self-care, habits. How has all of that, how did it kind of begin that you found yourself in this, I am now this consistency guide, and people are literally looking to me, DMing me every day going, how do you do this? Like, how did that part, did it happen just organically, or how did that come about?
Completely happened organically. And I still am kind of blown away to this day. Like, even my fitness and nutrition business kind of just, I fell into it. In high school, outside of high school, through having children, I never worked out. Like, fitness was never a thing. Like, I played basketball in high school, and I was like, don't put me in. Right? Like, I was not the athletic type.
Limping up to the field.
Right. I was like, they put me in if we were losing by a lot or winning by a lot, and that was it. So I was never like in that world, and I kind of fell into it. And when I find myself falling into something, I kind of like, I think of it as this, like, I'm being tossed into that for a reason. How can I maximize that? What is this lesson I'm supposed to be learning? What is this, avenue I'm supposed to be going down? And so I got in the habit of showing up for my meals, showing up and eating in a way that made me feel good, doing my daily workouts every single day, moving my body every single day. And I had extreme consistency in that. And I believe that that's where it started. I have, people on Instagram and in social media who have followed me for years in that realm and have joined groups and all of these kinds of things. And then I think it was my own frustration, like I said, of like, why are you like, how am I still going and you're not? Like, how have you given up? And I've gone through this and that and this and that and this and that, and I'm still going. Why are you not still going? And it was almost that headspace that I kind of got into, where people came to me and said, okay, well, how did you make it through your divorce? How did you stay focused on yourself through your divorce? How did you stay focused on yourself through your illness? How did you start working out at 6 weeks again when the doctor released you? I'm still like that, you know what I mean? So it was constantly this, like, people comparing themselves to me in a sense, where I had this in my mind. I'm just like, well, you just do this, this, and this, and you just, yeah, you know what I mean? And so I was like, okay, somehow I have to be able to teach people how to do this and how to bounce back and how to kind of shift their thinking and adapt different mindsets and different, belief systems in order to consistently kind of show up, because life is always going, right?
Yeah.
Like, something is going to happen. I'm sure something in my life is going to explode at some point again, right? Where I have to kind of reevaluate and pivot and say, okay, what feels good now? How can I still show up for myself? And it might not look the same. It might look completely different than it does now, but it still has to be prioritized in order for me to feel and function my best.
And I definitely get the impression that the sort of health trauma that you've been through has been or is still a big touchstone for you in maintaining these routines, because when you've been in such a low physical place, like, you remember it with every single nerve ending and fiber of your being. And so for you kind of have that touchstone of, I never want to go there again, so I'm going to keep doing this because this is what's going to keep me going here. For people who don't have any health trauma or anything like that in their past, how do they formulate their own kind of touchstone, so that when you're tired in the morning and you don't want to get up and do your thing, or it's a rainy morning, or you didn't sleep very well, or like, what's this inner sort of fire that we can find for ourselves to keep ourselves going?
I feel like it's so unfortunate that we don't take it seriously until we have to take it seriously.
I know, it's so true. But it is so true.
It's so true. And I feel like, honestly, for a lot of people to get into this mode of, I'm going to show up for myself no matter what, something like that has to have happened. And it may not be the extreme that mine was or is someone else's extreme, but even a health scare. Or I talk to women daily who are parents and they're just exhausted. And it's almost like they're like, I feel so stuck and so blah that I need a shift. And so I feel like that rock bottom, if you will, can have 100 different faces, but I feel like you have to get to this space where you're like recognizing, I don't feel good. Like, I know I don't feel good, and I know I could be functioning a lot better, and I know I could be showing up a lot better. And I know that, like, for me, it's even thinking of like this big picture vision, like whether I feel good on the daily or not, I know that the life I have, or the life I had, I didn't want to be in that life forever. I wanted something bigger. I wanted something different. I wanted something. So not even health wise, but like, what do you want your life to look like? Like, helping people kind of manifest that helps how you show up every single day. Does that make sense?
It definitely does, but I also just feel like there's this self-sabotaging monster that lurks within me.
Oh, for sure.
Like, honestly, because I like did my daily. I'd watched your routine for a while, and I was like, okay, I'm starting to kind of feel into a routine that feels good for me. And I think I did it consistently. I mean, this is going to sound terrible, but I think I did it consistently for like 2.5 weeks. And then I was like,
good job.
And then I just didn't do it again,
Yeah.
The weird thing was, while I was doing it, the peace. serenity.
Yeah.
Feel good. It's like it was working for me.
Well, let me ask you this.
And I still stopped. Why did I still stop?
Well, why did you stop? Can I ask you that?
It's funny because I feel like, because I'm a business mentor, so and I'm very, very, very go a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And my morning and personally, I think for me it's about finding the right time and the right zones for things, because for me, first thing in the morning is when I'm most creative. So I'm automatic, like in my dressing gown with my cup of tea, I come to my desk and I start creating all of these wondrous things. And I think what I was doing was I was making my morning routine so that it was pulling me away from that. So while I was down there, I was thinking, oh, this idea, that idea. And then when I got to my desk, I was feeling a little bit kind of flat already. So I think for me, it is about just thinking, it doesn't have to be a morning routine where I do those things, as long as I'm doing those things in the day. It's because it's things that I know that serve me. But I think that's what eventually threw me out, because I was like, oh, I just really want to sit down at my desk and do this thing.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of people understand or grasp the importance of being able to recognize that and then pivot.
Yeah.
Like where you just stop. I want you to say, okay, instead of doing it like that, I'm going to put that here and that there and try that tomorrow. And then tomorrow, if that doesn't feel good, okay, Wednesday, I'm going to do this and then this and then this and see how that feels. Do you know what I mean? Like I remember we moved into this new house about 1.5 years ago now. And when we moved in, the girls also started a new school. COVID was kind of, you know, wrapping up in a sense. I guess people were going back in person to school and things like that. And I was like, okay, everything I'm doing now is not going to work when the girls are back in school, when I'm in this new house, when the boyfriend is working upstairs, right? Like I had to constantly kind of change things. And it took me a good 3 weeks of trying things every single day in a different way to figure out how I wanted that to flow and look, right? I need to wake up at this time. Nope, I'm going to wake up at this time. I'm going to sleep in, do that here, and then see how that, you know what I mean? So the pivot, I feel like, is so important. And so many people try it, fail at it in their head, and then just fall flat and stop. And they're like, well, I'm just not gonna, routine is just not for me. But I think the another area where people get stuck is they'll watch me on social media, try to implement my routine into their life. And I'm like,
it doesn't work.
Big red flag, big red flag. You have to kind of take stock of where you are in your life and what season you are in your life, right? I've got 2 teenagers. I can easily tell them, hey, go upstairs, I'm going to go for a run, or hey, I'm going to go do this or go do that, right? When I was in the space of having small children, night and day difference, right? Different boundaries, different forms of communication, different pockets of time where I could kind of maximize things, or being an empty nester. Like there are so many different phases of life that we kind of go through where the routine is going to look different for everybody in all of those phases.
I think that's a really important message, actually, that it's not about this rigid morning routine that you've got to do in the morning and you've got to do, you know, it is about having that flexibility and giving yourself the grace to figure out what works for you.
Yeah. Well, and you said, you know, you're most creative in the morning. You have to run with that.
Yeah.
Right. So there's no way I would sit down with you and be like, we're going to scratch that.
Yeah.
Do this, and this. No, we're going to like, when do you feel the best? When are you in like your zone? Like, okay, then we need to work around that also, you know?
So for me, it's definitely like, come sit at my desk all bleary-eyed, create something magical for like an hour, because I've got no kids or anything. So it's just me and my husband. So time is on my side.
Love it.
So great for like an 1.5 hours, and then I'll do some reading, some journaling, then I go to the gym. So even though it seems like to some outside people my day only starts at 11:30, I've already been awake since 6:30 doing a lot of amazing things.
Yes. Yes. I love that.
It's just finding, it's definitely finding the way it works for you. I saw a YouTube video recently, and it was quite a controversial subject, I thought. And it was after we'd already booked this interview. So I thought, I've got to remember to ask Raina this question. So it was like some bigwig entrepreneur dude. And he was saying like, this video is going to cause loads of controversy, but I believe that morning routines and daily habits actually make you weak. Because if something happens in your day and you can't do the things or you get put off, in your mind, you're telling yourself, oh, well, I failed and now I can't focus and I can't keep on. Almost, it was almost like saying it's like a crutch that we can rely on, and then if it doesn't work, it throws us off. What do you think about that? What do you have to say to that?
Well, I don't think having a routine makes us weak. I think that without a routine, I think that's an excuse, to be honest. I think the weakness is the mindset that makes you say, oh, well, I'm just, like throwing in the towel.
Yes.
Right? I think that's weak. I think lack of, and I'm not calling you out, but I think lack of being able to pivot is weak. I feel like lack of, not being willing to try again the next day is weak, right? I don't feel like the routine in and of itself or habits in and of themselves are a weakness. Does that make sense? Can I throw that battle in? Yeah, honestly, because I think, I talk to a lot of people who struggle with like things like ADHD and everything like that. And they come to me and there's no way I can have a routine. And I'm like, okay, well, okay. But like having that routine allows us to rest in a sense and allows us to kind of take, like, I think a lot of people think of routines as like the structure and this rigid and it has to be this way. And if it's not this way, I'm this. And I agree with him in that sense of like, there is, I feel like, some weakness in there when we kind of lean on that. But if we're creating a routine that feels good and that allows us to show up in a way that energizes us and has us show up as being more creative and more productive at work and as a better mom and a better wife and a better friend and finding the time for all of those things and checking all of those boxes, I don't think that's a weakness.
It's so funny as you've just said that, then it's made a correlation in my mind that I'd never ever thought of before. So as a business mentor, one of the things that I'm really hot on is systems, like getting your systems in place, your processes in place, because I'm like the most scatty, disorganized person. So when I started putting systems in place in my business, it gave me so much freedom because I could be creative, because I had those systems I could rely on. So a routine and habits in life are the same as like systems in your business.
I was just thinking that. I'm like, well, why do we not just rename that?
once they're embedded, you can rely on them. It gives you such a sense of freedom because they're there. They're going to be there for you. And actually then your brain can be used for other things. And it is interesting, 100%. Actually, when I was doing my morning routine, I did feel like the clarity of thought was just so much more. I think it was because of the sort of journal dumping, reading something really inspiring, in the morning. So yeah, routines are almost like systems for your business, aren't they, really?
Yeah. Well, and I'm just thinking, I'm like, well, I need to rename all of my things and stop using the word routine and call it systems, because it really is that. And I feel like you just said, systems. I feel it is life systems, 100%. And those habits that we create the routine out of, like you were saying, like reading something in the morning that's like I have like 5 different books that I'm reading right now. I don't even know how I'm keeping it all straight, but I have like a book in the morning that I read that's like motivation, and it's something that's speaking directly to me in where I am right now. And it's mind-blowing how much it relates to the next book and what I'm reading. And like the next book is like, remember your power, and you were born to do X, Y, and Z, and this is how you channel that. And then I'll migrate over to my journaling area in my house and I'll kind of dump whatever's on my mind. And it's, the 3 are just in such a flow. I just feel like the most empowered person by the time I put my journaling pen down, right? And I sit and I go and do my workout and I'm like, okay, I'm like ready to tackle the day. And then I've got my movement in and I'm warmed up, and then I can come up here and I have like 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock where I'm just grinding and not this hustle mentality of like, go, 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 but this intentional maximizing my time work day where I show up in such an empowering way, where 5 o'clock hits and I'm like, okay, what's next? Like now I get to go be mom, and now I get to shut that off and go do this. And it's easier to turn off and transition into my nighttime routine because I've shown up in such a strong way during the day, where I don't have that in the evening of like, oh, I didn't get this done, or I didn't get that done, or oh, I should, the should, like that term of like shoulding all over the place. I love saying that. We should all over the place. But I just, the system that I have in place, my routine, quite literally saves me. And I don't know, I would like to thank my routine for where I am today, because it's just shifted everything.
It's like you say, when you've got that, it actually allows you to show up more powerfully in the different areas of your life, because like your routine as you describe it, and as I've seen every day for months and months and months, it's almost like a cleanse and massage for your brain and for your soul, I feel like. So by the time you sit down at your desk, you're clean, clear, focused, you know, whereas sometimes I think one of the things that I find myself doing sometimes, because I am such a creative, is that I sit here in my pajamas. This is a big admission. Sit here in my pajamas, get creative, and then before I know it's like 3 p.m. And while I've probably done a lot of good creative stuff, I probably haven't actually done my best, or I haven't done as much, you know what I mean? Because I've just kind of been in that, I've not really been focused. It's just been a bit of flow, which I think is good every now and again.
Sure.
But I think, like you say, being able to have those almost like zones in your day where you're focusing just on one zone. Because most of the time we're not, we're like scattered into a gazillion zones.
We are. Well, can I admit, I'm going to call myself out. And I think you said some of this is visual, right? Like you have a YouTube.
Yes, I do.
I have to show this, like, this is how like organized and like, I know. Did you get like chills when you saw this?
Me like the most orgasmic planner I've ever seen in my life.
I'm telling you. So I go as far as like highlighting like what my work day looks like, and then I sit down when I sit down to do my work day and I say, okay, what does today look like? Like, what are the boxes I need to check today? And so I'll have like calls scheduled in there, but then I identify where my gaps are, and I'm like, what would feel the best today? What do I need to do today? Like, even as deep as like my work day, I have like such a flow, but then I take like Monday, Thursday, and Friday, and they're very like you said, they kind of flow, and I allow my creative brain to kind of go, but I still have structure around that creativity where I can say, okay, 5 o'clock, it's done. And I call it like this lens shift, where I can then shift the lens of like work mode off and mom mode on, or work mode off, wife mode on, and disconnecting and being able to go into a different joy, if that makes sense.
And speaking of joy, you and I definitely share the same guilty pleasure of gorging on Colleen Hoover books. I mean, how much of your life has that woman sucked away? Like, you start reading one of her books, and before you know it, like 5 hours has gone. You're like, oh,
seriously. I have had to put some hard boundaries on reading, which I never thought I would have to say.
It's so hard with her books, because you just absorb them, don't you? It's terrible.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I've kept myself to like school pickup lines, because I get like a good 15-minute chunk there, and then I've made myself do it like as my like turn off the day, sit in bed, read my book. But then I'm like, okay, Raina, it's 11. You need to,
cup of tea in bed with my book.
Yeah. I love it.
Colleen Hoover time.
10 out of 10 recommend.
We've kind of mentioned journaling just a little bit, so just to kind of, I know we're kind of just a bit sensitive of your time, obviously, but obviously journaling is a huge part of your routine and your process. And one of the things I've definitely picked up on is, I think that sometimes we get sort of caught up on either sticking to journaling prompts or journaling what we want to manifest, or all this other stuff. And one of the things I love about what I'm perceiving you're doing is you're literally just emptying out the thoughts of the day.
Yes.
So literally, like almost like Dear Diary style, like, this is what I'm thinking, this is what happened today, this is what I'm stuck on.
Sometimes I act like I'm talking to someone. Like sometimes I act like I'm sharing it with someone else, you know what I mean? And I think, but you're right, like I hate prompts. I think there's like, there's a time and place for like the manifestation and the visualizing and the journaling in that sense. And I do that. So don't get me wrong. Like, I probably once a month, I'm like, okay, where are we going now? You know what I mean? And kind of casting that vision. But I found myself waking up a couple years ago, waking up with just immediate anxiety. Like, I would wake up, my heart is just pounding, my palms are sweaty. I would go down to journal, and I'm just like noise and overwhelm and thoughts. And it just was so overwhelming, where I at that point just started saying, okay, today I feel blank. And that was kind of my prompt for each day. So today I feel anxious. Today I feel overwhelmed. Today I feel frustrated. why? Where's that coming from? And then just making myself do this deep dive into the feelings that were coming up. And I would find that it was either lack of routine, or today I feel scattered. Today I have 100 different things on my mind. Where are those things? And like, so half the time my journaling is, okay, what's today going to look like to help me feel 10 times better than what I do now? Or sometimes it is that conversation I had the other day that I'm stuck on that I need to talk myself through, it's always just sitting down and, like you said, just kind of whatever's up here gets put on paper so that I can go do my workout and not half-ass my workout, or, go do my work day and not show up distracted. Journaling has been so incredibly therapeutic for me. I look at people. So I have a couple of friends that'll like send me stuff and it's like a picture of their journal. And I'm like, go deeper. That's not deep enough. Like, what are you even doing? Why are you writing that? So I'm like, oh, just the power of challenging yourself and asking yourself those deep questions. And why am I thinking that? Why is that a thought? Where is that coming from? Like, getting just ridiculously curious in my journaling has helped so much.
I think that's such a good point, really, like being really curious with your journaling. One of the things that I definitely use it for is I'm a bit of a holder-oner. So like that conversation that happened, like I think I've let it go, but I haven't really. So that sort of stuff, getting it out and journaling it for me really helps sort of clear the mind for sure.
Yes, I love that.
So in summation, that's an awfully posh word. So what final thoughts would you like to leave us with today before we close out, in terms of how, let's say this, how has having a daily routine changed your life?
It has slowed me down. And I feel like a lot of people would be like, why do you want to slow down? Don't you have this? And so it's helped me retire from that hustle mentality, if that makes sense. I feel like so often, especially as women, our value is often tied to productivity and what we produce and how hard we're working and what is the income we're making and how many people do we have sign up this month and things like that. And I found myself getting very wrapped up in that. And when pieces of my business would start to kind of disintegrate, I would be like, oh, like this, like desperation, like white knuckling and clenching and holding on to things so hard where I was so afraid to let go. And routine has kind of allowed me to kind of ease the grasp on things that I was kind of giving a death grip to. Things that no longer served me, or things, even, thoughts and people and, just movement and eating and all kinds. It's completely and totally changed who I am. I feel like I can take a deep breath now where I couldn't take a deep breath before. I feel like I was constantly clenching my teeth, if that even makes sense. And I don't know, I've found so much joy in being able to kind of just know what my day is going to look like and not have expectations on what my day looks like, because expectations can kind of be this like silent killer, if you will. But I've been able to experience joy again. And I feel like I've been able to shift into this phase of being completely present with my children again, which they are very quick to remind me that they're not going to be here forever. And so I'm like holding on to those moments and savoring that, but also being intentional about taking the time for myself. Like, I started riding horses again, and I'm getting ready to adopt my own horse. And I'm like, I can't even, like, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago, there's no way I would have even slowed down enough to realize that that's something that would have brought me joy. And I think that's what routine has done, is just allowed me to slow down, to kind of hear my voice and my intuition and do what genuinely feels good to me and not anybody else.
So routine essentially is your surrender system.
I love that. Yes.
That's another name you can be banking.
I'm writing that down.
Bank away for your book or your next course. Speaking of which, do you have a course coming out, Intentionally Unstuck? You've been giving us little sneak peeks of it. I think it's due for launch this November 22. So what I will do is I'll put links down below to either the wait list, where people can find you, a link to your Instagram. Honestly, check out her stories. Oh my God, you're not going to believe it.
Thank you. And it's launching on 11/11.
11/11.
11/11. Yes.
I love that.
Yes. Thank
Very
you.
good.
I'm excited.
Raina, it has been an absolute joy.
Thank you.
You bring
I've had
light
such a fun time
into
being here.
so many of our lives, honestly, just by
Thank you.
sharing your daily routine, just by showing up and sharing that every single day. Honestly, it's so meaningful, so powerful. It's had a very, very deep impact in my life. So thank you very much for the work that you do.
Of course. I appreciate you so much.
I hope you've all enjoyed listening to that. As I said, I will leave links to where you can find Raina, follow her and work with her in the show notes. Hope you've enjoyed that conversation, and we'll see you next time. Bye.